Welcome back to our Caldecott roundtable. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Emma, why don't you lead us on our discussion about Big?
I'd be delighted to. Hi, everybody. So I absolutely love this book. I found it in my library several months before the Caldecotts were announced and fell in love with it then. It is a very, very original, refreshing, and relatable book about size, yes, about being large, but also about one child's journey to self-love. That's really what the theme is. And it's a great exploration of how much words have power in children's lives. So basically, one of the things that really struck me first about this book, which really impressed me, was the use of the word big. You know, Vashti Harrison, who both wrote and illustrated the book, chose the word big, not fat. And I was really struck by that, particularly when you think that really the underlying theme is about girl power and girls being powerful, and also how much of an issue it is for Black girls, particularly their size, how much that comes into play for so many young Black women. And so what choosing the word big also does for Vashti is it gives her an opportunity to play with language throughout the book in terms of how she uses big and small, not only big in size, but phrases like a big kid who should know better and feeling small. She uses a lot of idioms and metaphors and things like that. The main character in the book is this little girl, but quite often feels small, and is big is used in positive ways, like, oh, you're a big girl, what a big girl you are, until one day this event happens where she gets stuck in the swing, which is apparently something that happened in real life to Vashti Harrison, I was reading, and was the inspiration for this book. And of course, in that moment, she feels shame about her size. And the next page, we see a teacher saying, don't you think you're too big for that? And it goes on from there, but that makes her feel small. And, wonderful creative use of big and small. It goes on from there, and this child character proceeds to grow and grow, not necessarily wider, but taller, so that she eventually becomes giant sized, out of realism. Now we're in a sort of a surreal world where she feels enormous and judged, but also invisible at the same time, which I think is really an interesting way to approach it. The other thing that is really interesting about this is that everybody in the beginning of the book, everybody else except for our main character, our hero, is created in sort of sepia washed out tones, and she's in color. Although they're all in sort of grays and browns, she's in color. And eventually, as they try to keep changing her and giving her advice, even the color that she's in gets washed out to grays and sepias and so forth, as they try to change her and transform her. The message being, of course, the transformation comes from within and from feeling your feelings. The other thing that's really fascinating about this book is the transformation that takes place is not an easy transformation. It's not that she suddenly looks in a mirror and has self-esteem or learns that she's beautiful in some easy pat way. What happens is she feels her feelings. She starts to really cry and cry and cry. And the more she cries, there's like 7 or 8 wordless spreads here where she's just filling the entire page, filling the entire page, now double pages, really almost breaking out of the book and feeling trapped and confined. And then she starts feeling her feelings and sobbing and weeping and letting it all out. And it isn't until she lets it all out and starts feeling her feelings that she is able to start seeing things more clearly. And that's a brave thing to do in a picture book. It's a really brave statement to make. And then she decides from that to make more space for herself. And we end up with this magnificent gatefold. She's literally pushing the pages of the book aside to make space for herself. She's her biggest yet, but in a positive way, and color is being restored to her. It's really a magnificent magnificent journey that she takes. I just want to read Betsy Bird's quote from her review. She says, "This isn't a book where the world changes itself for our heroine. It's not a book where everything is magically okay at the end. That's not the point. It's not pretending that she won't be facing more of these problems in the future. All it can do is say that if she's happy with herself and who she is, that's going to go a long way." And that's not a statement or a message I've seen in a lot of picture books and about young girls. And I just think it's so empowering. And one of the almost the last lines in the book is, "No, thank you. I like the way I am." That she was just a girl and she was good. It's just magnificent. It's one of those books that made me feel I wish I'd written that. Hats off to Vashti Harrison.
When she's just all curled up before she comes to the realization and they're saying, "Aren't you too big to be crying? Have you tried being smaller? Why can't you just fit in?" is the last line from someone. And that's what starts it. Why can't you just fit in? And she can't fit into the book. And then she, as you say, she starts to push it out and she's making herself fit into the world and into the book. And it's one of these books that I think will be there forever. It's so beautiful. It makes me cry every time I'm reading it. And for anybody who's ever been teased in their life, it's very, very powerful for anything. But the fact that she saves herself is so, it's following the number one rule of what we need to do as picture book writers is that can't have somebody else help you or push you along. It needs to be done by our main character, and she does it beautifully.
Yeah, we don't see a helpful or caring adult in her life beyond the beginning. That in and of itself, I think, is a brave choice. We know that she has loving parents, so we're grounded in that. And Vashti Harrison didn't feel like she needed to go back to reiterate that. So we're seeing a girl who is loved by her family, but who still has to face this challenge herself. And that is almost as much of a lesson for the parents as it is, because, we all want to prevent our kids from having to go through this kind of thing. The fact is that we can't. And they're going to have to. And so this is a wonderful book that shows how you can empower yourself. To the point you read, Emma, about Betsy Bird's review, that this isn't a book about the world changing. Even more than that, it's like this ending is so brave, so unique, because not only does the world not change, but the people who hurt her, even after she comes back empowered, are still trying to diminish her. It says, "Not everyone understood or even listened. It's just a joke. It's not that serious. You're too sensitive." How many people, raise your hand if people have told you you're too sensitive, right? And then even the one who, it says, "Some tried," is, "I didn't mean to hurt you," which isn't exactly.
Sorry if it made you feel that way.
Sorry, not sorry.
Right. So it's not as if she changes all the other people around her, even, or that they have a realization and try to do better. No, this is all about this one child and her journey. One other thing, and then I'll pass the baton here, but you mentioned that the other characters are all in sepia tones. I was fortunate enough to be at the Tucson Book Festival a couple of weekends ago, and Vashti was on a panel that I attended, and she talked about that choice and made it very deliberately for a couple of reasons. One, so that the focus is on the main character, but also that she seems so much bigger that even if she'd made the other characters physically smaller, by also kind of putting them in shadow, you get the sense of her being even bigger. But also it's the prioritization of her feelings And rather than giving the bullies or the insensitive adults or whatever the same fully fledged illustration or treatment. And then the other thing that she mentioned, because I thought it was sort of interesting when we talked about Langston, a party for Langston last week, that there was the use of the words themselves in the book became
Yeah.
really important. And Vashti does that too, where the words move and she gathers them and she stirs them, and so the
Oh,
words
This one in
become
particular, when she
Oh
said,
my God.
when
These
she-
words here. Yeah.
hands them
Yeah.
back, right?
Yeah, these
these
are
are yours,
yours.
they hurt me. And she's
I mean,
handing the
that's
word.
Giving
to
them
me,
back.
that's the most powerful line in the whole book.
And
Yeah.
and she did that to show that, you know, words, people are, you know, sticks and stones, but words will never hurt me. And this was her way of saying, no, they absolutely do. They get on
Yeah.
they get on the inside of your skin
Yeah.
and can change you for better or for worse.
By giving us this spread, these are yours, they hurt me, she's giving the reader tools, right?
Yes.
She's not just making the point that words hurt. She's giving the reader the option of what to do with words that hurt and
Right.
how
And
to
that's a
put them
very
back.
important point. Yes, Emma, because we tell our clients, our students, our attendees that you don't want to hit anybody over the head with the lesson, but that is a lesson right there. But
Right.
it's not, you're not getting hit over the head with it. And this is
Well,
a
it's
great
shown
example.
rather than told.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, the other way that I love how she uses words just to underscore the theme is the undies, of course. She's got all these wonderful alternatives for big and positive self-esteem words on the book jacket underneath for kids to discover. And also the end papers. There's this wonderful squiggle and theme in the end papers, which just looks like a squiggle at first look. But if you, I don't know if you can see this, but if you zoom in really
Yeah.
close, there's an I love you in there.
Oh.
And, you know, those kinds of things are just such a treat to discover. They're little Easter eggs, you know.
And the egg, yeah, another Easter egg, which is not, I don't think as powerful as the I love you, but is also that the letters of the mean words are different colors. When she says, these are yours, they hurt me, we're back to pink. When the people are saying the mean things to her, they're all in that gray that the teacher tried to paint her.
Mhm.
This is a book you can read over and over again and
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
layers
I
and
mean,
nuance
yeah.
and
And
what
in
have
that
you.
same one, you can see where the gray is dripping off of her, you know,
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
she hands those words back.
Getting her power back.
She's, yeah. She's becoming
You
more.
really, you can really understand, given that the Caldecott is for illustration, you really can see how Vashti used her art to tell her story and to underscore her theme. And we should just wrap this up, but I just want to draw everybody's attention to the cover where, you know, it does say big and there's our main character, but what she's doing is she's holding up the eye,
Mm.
right? She's
Oh, yeah.
holding the
Yeah, I
left
hadn't
eye to
even-
make herself
Wow.
strong,
The
I thought of that
symbolism on
either.
that. Yeah.
right?
I
Such a
look
great
at it
choice.
as she's so strong, she can hold up that big word.
Yeah, and that's the first, and that's true, and that's the
Yeah.
first thing we see. But then when you notice what letter it is, it's even
Yeah.
more. That's what I
Right.
mean about layers.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah,
that's,
I mean, and it's such a book I think so many kids can relate to, because how many times do you walk out of the house with, I mean, I don't know, say a pimple, and you feel like it's the only thing anybody can
Yeah.
see about you, you know, and so no matter what that is, you always feel like, you know, you're the biggest, you know, that contrast between you and everybody else is,
I
you
just,
know,
from a lesson, from a, you know, craft lesson point of view, I love the fact that Vashti allowed herself to get surreal with this, that she didn't feel like she had to stay literally within the confines of, you know, the
Yeah.
rules of being realistic about all of this, that she not only pushed the boundaries of the book, but also really kind of allowed herself to tell the story with pushing the boundaries of the rules a little bit.
Yes.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Congratulations,
note.
Vashti.
Yeah.
Deserve
Well,
that.
well earned, well deserved.
So many brilliant layers. And as somebody who was the tallest girl in dance class from about age 8 on, this one really resonated with me for sure.
Yeah. Well,
because
and
I
one,
always felt big in dance class.
I think a more subtle message, so we're talking about multiple layers, but is taking up space, like
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be big and to take the space that you deserve.
I don't need to
So
change.
I love the way that she's like pushing
Yeah.
to
Right.
say, no, here I am, back
Yeah.
off. I'm gonna, because
I don't have to stay in this
Own my
box that you
power. I'm
put
going
me
to own
in.
my strength. I don't care if it
Yeah.
rubs people the wrong way, you know.
right. Yeah.
She can only
Yeah.
get there after she's felt her feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't get there by swallowing her feelings. And that's really important lesson, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And identifying that it's the problem of the other people that are saying
Yeah.
those words.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's such a great book for so
Mhm,
many
brilliant.
reasons. So
Picture Book Summit.